Hello and welcome.
Hey Andy, good to be here again. How has everything been?
Yeah. It's been it's been a pretty crazy month for me. Uh
Hmm.
yeah, and how are you doing, Brian?
Yeah, things are good here. Just weathering the storm and trying to see what we can figure out these final 10 days of the year before we
Oh
go
yeah.
into 2023, hopefully with fresh optimism and some better results than in 2022.
Oh yeah. Okay, so hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Today is over on my end. Today's Thursday, the 22nd of December. Over on Brian, it's still Wednesday, the
Yeah,
21st. Yeah. Okay.
correct.
Hope everyone's doing well. We have, as usual, a very special guest today. We have Brian Quinlivan from Santiment. Very big and warm welcome to Brian. Excuse me, too early in the morning. I probably still need another coffee. Um, yeah, so look, this will be our last show for 2022. The next one will come to you next year in 2023, of course. And what a year it's been, huh, Brian? You know,
Yeah.
coming down from the high of 2021, we've had so many things happen this year. Celsius, FTX, you name it. Um, I would say the market, the market's pretty shaken right now. Investors are, a little bit afraid, a little bit scared. But I think deep down, at the end of it, a lot of the, I mean, a lot of the concepts, a lot of the technology has not changed. Bitcoin hasn't changed. Litecoin hasn't changed. A lot of dexes, decentralized exchanges, are still running and working and as they should. um, but yeah, let's dive right into it. Look, I can hear you nice and clear, and you can hear me, I assume, Brian.
Perfect.
Okay, mic check done. And those of you, look, if you're tuning in, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Right? If you tune in on YouTube, click on the bell icon, choose all. Then you'll get notified every time we're on. So don't forget to tag your friends. Let them know if they're interested. Okay, so I'm gonna just jump right into it and welcome Brian and let Brian do a little bit of an intro of himself, and then um, let's go.
Yeah, you bet. So I am the head of content at Santiment, and my job is to try to find the best divergences and indicators and metrics that are revealing themselves at any given time to see where markets are heading next based on objective data and historical evidence. We don't give investment advice, but we do find ways to ensure that we can look back on when conditions looked similar and what happened then versus what happened now. And we tend to have a pretty good track record from there. So jumping into what's been going on the last 30 days, we can see that actually Bitcoin and Ethereum are up a little bit, which it may not feel like it because the last week or so has been pretty doom and gloom. But if we remember where we were, just a couple weeks after the FTX news broke, things were looking really bad, and prices had really plummeted down to uh, around 2 year lows at that time. And we're a little above those 2 year lows now, but certainly not out of the woods. And as we can see here, it's been kind of a mixed bag when it comes to different altcoins out there. Toncoin has had quite a major surge, and we've done a few articles about it. We have a few others: Bitcoin SV, Phantom, Dash, Thorchain, among a few that are doing well. But you can also see that there are quite a few that have been absolutely hammered: Algorand, Filecoin, Flow, Chiliz, among several here that really have been beaten down. And that's the thing with altcoins versus Bitcoin. Even when Bitcoin and Ethereum are going up, you can see the volatility really start to show itself in as market caps get smaller and smaller down the ladder there. And you can also notice, look how much drop off there has been in discussions related to crypto just in the past 30 days. So what we're doing here is we're measuring the percentage of discussions on Discord, Twitter, Telegram, Reddit in these previous 30 days versus the 30 days before that. So in mid-October to mid-November, there was a lot more discussion all over the place than there is now. And that can be viewed
Mhm.
in two different ways. For one, there are less people in crypto right now who are talking about it, meaning weak hands have really dropped off and only the strong, patient traders are sticking around. And that generally can lead to capitulation happening. At the same time, we need to see that utility is rising eventually in order to justify a turnaround. So if we start to see a spike, but we're still not seeing many people talk about crypto, there's like kind of a limitation to how far that mini bull run might go because of the fact there's just not enough daily active addresses or tokens circulating to justify us getting right back up to where we were in November and October of 2021. So social volume's way down. Bitcoin, Ethereum have actually gone up over the past 30 days, but down over the past week. And then altcoins are a little more down than up. So that's where we're at. And I'm curious what you've seen just over the past 30 days as well, Andy. Do you have any major thoughts and revelations as things have developed here?
Yeah, look, I think more from a macro perspective, I think the markets were expecting Jerome to be easier on the interest rates rises,
Mm-hmm.
in the coming year of 2023. But I think Jerome was pretty clear that they weren't gonna ease off that quickly, and they were gonna keep the
Right.
pressure on. They were gonna keep fighting inflation. Things are still expensive, and you could probably confirm whether they still are. And
Oh, yeah.
so,
They
yeah,
very much are. And he's staying very hawkish. He really does believe that more interest rate rises are to come. And
yeah,
to go off of the point you just made, you can see how Bitcoin, Ethereum are still somewhat following the same route as the S&P right now. Gold is
mm,
actually the one that's been climbing the most as of late, but you can see the big split here. This was when the FTX news happened, and the
yep,
S&P had a big day, but Bitcoin, Ethereum did not because fear
mhm,
was just massive at that time, and a bunch of coins were being unaccounted for. People are taking their coins off of exchanges. Um, not for the purpose of putting in cold storage, just to get the heck out of crypto, and that's not good. So that we had the big split there, but we've seen that crypto and equities have started to click right back into the same route once again as Jerome Powell got hawkish last week when he made his announcement.
yeah, yeah. So I think from a from an investor's perspective, and obviously this is not financial advice. Um, it's important to obviously monitor what's happening around you, and what the decisions are at the top, or at least what Jerome and his gang are planning on doing, because that seems to affect the markets quite a lot. But also from a so at Equities Tracker, our flavor of investing is very much value investing, right? So we go for stuff that are cents on the dollar. When they're on discount. I'm not saying that things are in discount right now, but if you zoom out long enough and you look back at the history of markets, you know uh, there are crashes and there are bull runs, right? And it goes up, it goes down, it goes back up, it comes down, it goes back up. So uh, really, this is just another market cycle, if anything. And stay safe out there. I'm sure um, you know uh, Bitcoin, for example, as an alternative, or a lot of the solutions that some of the other projects are presenting or giving. I'm pretty sure that developers are still developing. They're still working on their projects, and there's solutions that have not yet been available to the world. So uh, unless someone builds something better and than that, then but otherwise, I think just times like these, look back on the fundamentals to see if you find value in whatever it is that you're looking at. And again, markets go down, they come back up. It's a market cycles. And some
Absolutely.
insights, right? If you're looking to become a licensed fund manager, um, then they require licensed people to to be part of that organization, and they need at least 10 years experience. And I spoke to a license, an experienced licensed fund manager, and he says, well, obviously they need a minimum of 10 years experience because in that time you would have gone through a couple of market cycles, and then from there, that's when you gain your experience, and that's where you kind of learn to not panic or get too euphoric during those times. So yeah, back to you,
Yeah,
Brian.
great summarization, Andy. So, looking at a few of the topics that we released just a couple days ago when we did a mid-month December report here, we'll do a report every middle of the month and at the end of every month just to keep our community up to date. So that's a feature that's exclusive to our Sandbase Pro members who have memberships that start at $44 a month on our app, but you get 25% off when using code Equities Tracker. There's my product placement for the day. Um,
Nice.
what we're looking at here is a few different charts, and I wanted to point out this one because I still believe that this is one of the best predictors of where crypto markets go next. When Bitcoin is not being talked about a lot, prices get volatile and they tend to go down depending on just how little Bitcoin is being talked about. You can see a top forming right after this big plummet in discussion related to Bitcoin. You can see that when things actually went positive over the past year, we had a climb, and then we started to see a lack of interest in Bitcoin as people went for the more volatile altcoins that might leverage 2, 3, 4 times as much for the same amount of investment, and people can't resist. And suddenly markets go down again, and they've stayed down. We've seen uh, Bitcoin social dominance just be well below what we consider to be the health line. And when it's above, things go up right here. But that hasn't happened much in 2022. So really, it's no wonder that prices have dropped so drastically. And I can show you what, for comparison, if we look at 2020, that's 2 years. So check this out. This is here. I'll zoom out just a little. Just look at the last week, each week at a time instead. Look at how the social dominance back in January of 2021 and December 2020, they were just soaring. Lots of discussion related to Bitcoin. Will it be able to cross 30K? Absolutely. And that's exactly what happened. It actually got above 40K at one point, eventually had a small correction, but Bitcoin's social dominance stayed high. Finally, we started to see not so much interest, and people were talking about Doge and Shiba Inu at the time. Markets corrected. Then after they corrected, everyone's like, whoa, what's happening to Bitcoin? Let's talk about Bitcoin again. Price goes up, stays up to about right here. And this was when it got that first all-time high. And it did one more leg up, but it was already at the price of much less discussion of Bitcoin. So once it hit that final all-time high, huge plummet right away as people were trying to buy the dip with more speculative assets, which is not ideal. We want people going back into the relative safe haven, which is Bitcoin, which is really the key to allowing the rest of the markets to pump. So they weren't doing that up until June of this year, and the rest is history. So I really love this metric, and it really displays how important sentiment and greed versus fear plays into the prices of the markets at any given time, with the high values being essentially greed, and the low values, other way around, high values being fear, because they're talking about Bitcoin mostly and not talking as much about the big swingy assets out there. And then we have greed here when they are talking about trying to get those swingy assets instead of Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? So when they're I guess when they're talking about Bitcoin, then you'll see Bitcoin going up, and then when there's, well, I guess when it's top of mind, then I guess that there's a correlation where the price goes up.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Thanks.
So super cool chart that I always like to reference. Another thing in our mid-month report, check out this. Of the available options, what Bitcoin price would be the closest to your target for being all in on crypto without money in stable coins? So basically 100% Bitcoin or 100% Doge, whatever it is that you're into, you're not sitting in any tether. You're actually sitting in real assets that have major fluctuating values. And most people said they're waiting for Bitcoin to get around $10,000, and that's when they want to buy the dip. Even less people are thinking that it might go down to 5,000 or less, and that's when they'll be all in. About a quarter of them are already all in as of a couple days ago when we put out this poll. And then a few people, about 8%, actually are waiting for the price to go above that support line
Uh,
to essentially be the, or resistance line that is, to essentially buy on the way up as a validator that we're now in a bull run. So I think this is a really interesting poll with some fascinating results I didn't expect at all.
yeah, that is interesting, isn't it? So everyone's expecting Bitcoin to be, well, I guess everyone's waiting for it to be 10K or below 10K.
Yeah, about two-thirds of them are. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
So
that's interesting.
that to me is a sign of fear, and that in the end, at the end of the day, is a good thing.
Mm,
We want people to be pretty skeptical that prices can go up, and that is generally when prices go up, and the whales get their hands on all of the coins that nobody else wants, and
yep,
good things tend to happen. Now
yep,
that
yep.
sort of leads us to the next question: is are whales trying to get their hands on these coins right now? Let's take a look at, I think this one should be fine. So I want to focus on, I'm going to take the stable coins off. I'll tell you this about stable coins. Lots of accumulation has been happening with sharks and whales.
Hmm.
And that generally is a good sign because it means there's more buying power in the markets getting ready for something at some point. But moving on to the main event, which is Bitcoin, let's look at three separate lines. We'll look at the 10 to 100 line, 100 to 1,000, and 1,000 to 10,000. So addresses holding each of these respective ranges over the past 2 years. And generally, we're seeing good things from the 10 to 100 coin addresses, which are essentially sharks. You know, you could argue that 80 and up addresses with 80 or more Bitcoin, like those could definitely be whales. That's a lot of USD when you talk about 80 times 16.5K or wherever we are right now.
Yep.
And then we've got the middle definite whales, which are 100 to 1,000. They're starting to go up as of about a month ago. And 1,000 to 10,000 are still kind of treading water. They've dumped significantly in the last 2 years, as we can see. Starting here in January, or it looks like early February 2021, they held about 30% of the supply. Now they're down to 24%. So they've offed about 20% of their holdings to drop 6% of the overall supply that they were holding. And most of that has gone into smaller addresses here. So it's kind of a mixed result here where we're seeing sharks and whales really starting to buy the dip a lot as of early June when the FOMC was dropping the hammer on, I believe, I think it started like this was the first big hammer where they like raised it by 75 BPS, price went down. They announced another one in May and another one in June. And you can see how much they really started accumulating on that last one in June. And then prices actually were starting to go up. They went back down. And now look how aggressive they've been over the past 6-7 weeks or so. While the blue ones, or the really high ones, which are kind of a combination of very large whales and exchange addresses, they're going down. So I actually put a little more credence in the red line and the yellow line,
Yep.
which gives us some optimism here. But it's
Yeah.
certainly not like a unanimous huge accumulation from all of the whales right now while everyone is fearful. And that would be the ideal setup.
Yep, yep. Hey, Brian, I'm curious. I remember during the the whole FTX saga when that was playing out, everything kind of dropped pretty heavily,
Mhm.
including Bitcoin at that at that point. But for some reason, Litecoin was really strong. I don't know if you remember that period,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. Check
it
this out.
almost doubled. In terms of its price on in BTC, it went from 0.0025 BTC up to almost 0.005, I think.
Yeah, we did a little bit of analysis on Litecoin when that was happening, and we found some interesting things. So Litecoin's current price is about $65. That would mean that the key whales we could look at probably would fall in this 10K range and 100K. And
Whoa.
yeah, I wouldn't say this one. That's going to be mostly exchanges. Probably these three tiers here.
Hmm.
And what do we see? Like beginning with like the 1,000 to 10,000 Litecoin, we're definitely talking about sharks holding between 65,000 to $650,000 of Litecoin. Yeah, they started accumulating massively right at the beginning of June. Um, while the red line, the 10,100, this is 650K to $6.5 million addresses. They've been accumulating throughout the past 2 years despite all this volatility, and they're staying within this range here. So not much to say there. But check out this recent accumulation line starting just about 10 days
Oh,
ago. They
yeah,
were
wow.
holding 100,000, the 100,000 to 1 million coin addresses were holding 35, what was that? 30.6%. And now they're up to almost 36% just in 10 days. So we're
Wow.
talking about almost a 6% accumulation of all of the supply by some massive addresses here. Um,
Wow.
so the question is, how much alpha does that really have, that line? And if we combine all three, we'll take these off. So this is all of them together, 1,000 all the way up to 1 million coin Litecoin addresses. Yeah, we're back to the highest point we've been at since January for these key
Wow.
whales. And
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good sign there. And it could be a contributing factor to why things have been looking so solid. And to further look into Litecoin, we definitely see volume's been interesting to say the least. Starting about a year ago, we started seeing a lot more transaction volume, and a bizarre drop off for about a month, and then it resumed here in December. Um, Perhaps the whale transaction count, though, is the most interesting story because we see just a huge amount
Wow.
of 1 million plus dollar transactions going on,
Whoa.
which was kind of similar. I'll just take the 100K plus ones off for a minute. So this is just the 1 million plus by itself. We haven't seen this bunch of addresses, this kind, really since a huge local top that happened back about a year and a half ago. But this was a market
Wow.
wide correction, and whale transactions aren't necessarily top signals by any means. Um, you can see it happened here at a top and here at a top, but they can also happen for a variety of other reasons, like right here, right at the bottom. This was clearly a lot of key whales making huge transactions for the purpose of pushing the price up. And now the question is, are they taking profit here or are they actually trying to accumulate? Because here, I'll zoom in just a little bit. You can see that during the high run about 2 weeks ago, they were already starting to really explode with whale transactions. But after the big drop, that just continued. And this was the second highest whale transaction day of the last 6 months, only being supplanted just barely by the September one. So
Yeah.
I think there's still a lot of interest in Litecoin from the powers that be who have a massive ability to move prices around. And I would consider this a good sign for LTC and might be a
Yeah,
justification for the rise.
That's interesting because they've been, pretty much down in the doldrums for a while, and then all of a sudden, when the whole FTX saga was playing out, the my guess was that everyone's I guess leaving all the or what they called what VC coins, and they were looking for maybe a decentralized coin to put their their money in. I don't know, but that was interesting when that happened. I was like, what? How come it's suddenly going up again? It was bucking the trend.
Hmm.
Yeah, during that period. Interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah, Litecoin's definitely had its own shine in the sun, if you will. While
Yeah.
a lot of markets have been very flat, Litecoin was kind of able to overcome that and is still sitting at $65, which isn't too bad because a lot of other coins, for example, Ren, which is one we've talked about on the show before, it's been
Yeah.
hammered over
Oh yeah.
some issues about, I think, potential coins missing and Alameda um,
Yeah.
kind of losing their assets. It's complicated, and you may know more about it than me, but
Well,
it's dropping.
basically, Ren is shutting down because of Alameda. The original founders kind of sold the Ren team, or I don't know. It was a weird arrangement. They weren't very transparent about it, but they kind of sold they sold the whole Ren team or development team to Alameda, and Alameda was funding and paying for the they're funding the developers and also for the infrastructure to run the service, to run the dark nodes. And so their funding runs out, I suppose, in 7 days, and then there's no more funding. So what's happening is they're talking about open sourcing Ren now, and we'll see what happens, because I think that the community has been discussing what the funding models could be, or what
Hmm.
the how they could structure it. So um, they're basically going to shut down Ren 1.0, and they're going to, like I think proposing to increase the number of supply or something in order to fund the developers. So yeah, but on
Yeah.
chain, what's been happening with Ren?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I look at here is the development activity to see if people are actually on the team still doing a little bit of work, and the answer is no. It
Yeah.
really, this validates that as of the beginning of this week, the development essentially went to zero. So the rumors are true from what it seems. The amount of development actually going into Ren is non-existent right now, while they work on potentially going to open source, as you say. So
Mm.
yeah, that's a bummer for those who are holding Ren right now.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
the crowd has caught on to a little bit. You see this was right around the time when I was first hearing about it 2 weeks ago, and there was a big social dominance spike as the conversations around the crypto circles started to focus more on Ren. And then supply and exchanges is really dropping off as well. I don't know if that's related to actual Alameda coins moving or what, but yeah, they're definitely moving away from exchanges right now, which would normally be a good sign. But I think in this kind of extreme event, it's not really that fun.
Yeah. Oh, and if to the viewers, if you're holding on to any Ren assets, best to convert it back, before the year end, over to back to its original chain, and keep that instead of Ren asset, because once they shut down all the Ren dark nodes or the Ren network, then yeah, your
Yep.
coins will be your wrapped coins will be lost.
Yeah. Great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally, just holding a coin where there's not any evident development activity is always a risky proposition. So keep that in mind.
It's a
If
shame
you're
because
a
Ren was a
yeah,
good project. I mean, it,
I
it, it
know.
was a needed infrastructure within the DeFi space.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, other than that, Ethereum. Just to give an update there, we have the key whale chart that we like to look at, showing a positive sign still. Um, so this blue line represents a big range of key Ethereum holders that hold about 2/3 of the supply. Its addresses holding anywhere from 100, which are small sharks, to 1 million, which are large whales. And generally, when we see them dumping, uh, the price against Bitcoin goes down. When they're accumulating, the price tends to go up more. You can see they really peaked here right when Ethereum was about a week from its merge, and then they dumped just a couple days prior, and the price of Ethereum versus Bitcoin really took a hit. And then starting in early November, they've actually been accumulating some back. It's not an extreme amount, but they've gone about halfway back to what they were holding pre-merge, and I'd consider that a good thing. And the reason that it hasn't really gained on Bitcoin is because nothing is really gaining on Bitcoin, right? I shouldn't say nothing, but it's rare right now. Most altcoins, including Ethereum, are falling behind Bitcoin at the moment. And when Bitcoin starts to stabilize, that's when you could start to see the effect of this kind of accumulation happen.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
But yeah, man, I think we're probably hitting that time already.
Yeah, we are.
But I think we covered some of the basics. Overall, it looks like fear is still high, and the amount of skepticism is pretty much the highest I've seen it in quite a while. You can also see, interestingly, the overall amount of discussions has started to pick up again. So this could be a pretty good sign that fear is starting to hit its max, because it's really, I don't want to wait too long for the chart to load here, but over the last couple of years, you'll be able to see that social volume has just gradually fallen. And then finally around like late November, we started to see a big surge again. And that to me is a sign that people have had enough, and they're saying Bitcoin's a scam and all the stuff that we always see. So yeah, take a look at how the big decline started about a year ago, right after the all-time high corrected. And then discussions finally started picking up a little earlier than I called. It was late October. And now it's really at its highest point in the last 2 years. So that's an interesting development, considering we've been seeing a long-term drop-off.
That is interesting. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, so thank you so much again, Brian, for coming on and for coming on this whole year. It's been great. The viewers love having you on. We love
I'm so glad
getting your insight into what's happening. Any final words for 2022? To share with the crowd, with the audience.
Yeah, I mean, brutal year, hardest year that we've seen since 2018. Is in terms of price corrections. And I just advise people to hang tight. It's hard to trade in times like these. So if you find yourself getting frustrated by having your precise strategies not come to fruition, hodling is never a bad idea right now. And keep an eye on the US Fed, what they're doing as well, because they're going to dictate whether 2023 allows tech stocks and crypto, which is related to tech stocks and trades similarly right now, are able to thrive. So my advice is be patient. Don't pull out all your hair and think crypto is a scam. It is not a scam. That I can assure you, or I would not be in this industry. But it's going to continue being volatile and difficult to trade until we start hearing some good news from the Fed. And when the Fed starts giving good news, big institutional traders will come back into crypto and make prices do good things.
Thank you. Words of wisdom. Thank you, Brian. I echo what you just said, and I think sometimes not you can either do something or you can do nothing, and doing nothing during such times is a choice. You can choose to just sit it out for a while, have some time out, and that's absolutely fine. Also, in terms of the trading, do know that since the market sentiment is pretty bad at the moment, that just means that there are less people also on centralized exchanges also trading because of the fear of platform risk.
True.
Yeah. So look, what a year it's been. 2022 has been not great. We hope 2023 will get better, but based on whatever news that we have right now, doesn't I guess we don't know. They can change in a heartbeat. They could flip in a heartbeat, and then markets usually react the first. Like they're the first to react. But we'll see. We'll see how things go. But otherwise, stay safe out there. Brian, wishing you and your family a Merry Christmas and a safe one, and a great start to 2023.
Yeah, happy holidays to you, Andy, and everyone watching. Stay safe and warm out there, and I'm looking forward to chatting and catching up next month.
Definitely looking forward to it. Well, have a good one.
You betcha.
Bye, guys.
Talk soon.
Take care. Bye bye.